Enos will return next Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock, 7 Central and Mountain Time on most of these stations.
Friday, take a magical journey over the rainbow with Dorothy and her friends.
I'll get you, my pretty.
I am I.
An immortal fantasy with an all-star cast. The Wizard of Oz, Friday at 8, 7 Central and Mountain.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Coming to Kickstarter from the mind of Franco, the man behind Teen Titans Go to the Library, Faye of the Moon, and All Yeah Comics, comes the new LXT, the adversarial fighting card game, live now on Kickstarter. LXT, Lux vs. Tenebris. Imagine a loved one has been spirited away to a land of terror and torture. Would you be willing to go after them and fight through a horde of acolytes of the Dark One just to get them back? Developed as a role-playing card game that can be played multiple ways. The cards will have full-color illustrations on the front and chock full of stamps and moves on the back. You can also get the LXT Who's Who book with origin stories and information about all the characters. Still want more? Also available is the LXT Dark Atlas book, filled with prose stories about all the baddies and illustrations from a wide selection of comic artists. There are plenty of add-ons you can purchase separately, like comic books, stickers, original art from the game, and more. It's going to be a howling good time. LXT, live, now on Kickstarter. Welcome back, everybody. Look at my hair. Never straight, Ed. What can I do?
So much of it. So much.
Yeah,
of it.
I know, and I'm sorry to complain about hair and too much hair to you. But welcome, everybody. It's Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suttress here. I'm really happy to welcome Ed Catto back to Word Balloon. Good to see you, Ed.
Hey, thanks, John. So good to be here. Love it.
And we're here to talk about the great Ithacon. Man, Ed, Ithacon 47. That's insane. And as you told me, second oldest convention in the States?
Absolutely. Yeah. Second continuously running convention after San Diego. The great Sheldon Drum, who does an amazing show in South Carolina, has been doing it just as long. There's a little numbering thing going on there, but it's an amazing thing. And I went to the show when I was a kid. It is my great pride to be able to be involved with it now. And the fellow who founded it, Bill Turner, is still very much involved. I tried to get him on the podcast today, but it's a fantastic tradition. And if you love comics, if you love the genre stuff, and then you love the history behind it, it's good to be a part of that fabric.
I also love the fact too that it's such an important part of Ithaca College, and help me if I'm getting this wrong, Ed. Essentially, event planning is a curriculum that is offered at the college, and it's really smart that as a faculty guy, you're like, well, let's have the students run Ithacon. And that way they get practical experience running a big event.
Absolutely, yeah. And my focus here is all on entrepreneurism at the business school. So, I made a case that trade shows and conventions are a big part of any startup. You can be a huge time suck if you have a startup company and you go to a show and you don't use your time wisely. And so, one way to do that is to study them. Another way to do that is actually run them. So there was another wonderful woman, Catherine Kittredge, who started the partnership with Ithacon a few years ago. And then she's still involved doing some other things as a main focus. And I teach this Ithacon class now, and it's part of this entrepreneurship series of studies that we have. It's a minor now at Ithaca College, and it's all about, not only celebrating, anime or comics or, Marvel Cinematic Universe, but really the business of it. How do you pull together an event? How do you make sure that you publicize it well? How do you treat people with good customer service? How do you treat the guests and the fans and get the permits and make sure everything is running smoothly so that attendees don't have to worry about that? How do you make all those things happen? And, that's kind of the name of the game with this class and then this course too.
That's great. That's excellent. Yeah, and I look forward to, God, you got a great lineup again. I don't, do you have the lineup in front of you in terms of some of the guests? I know our buddy Shelley Bond is going to be there, which is great.
Yeah, so Shelley Bond's she's going to be a fantastic guest. Shelley, I know your listeners probably heard her on the show a number of times. She's always great on your show, but she started off as more of a radio person when she went to Ithaca College years ago. So she's an alumna of the school, and we're going to shine the spotlight on her. We're also bringing her super talented husband, Philip Bond, to the show too. And we're really excited. And because she has such ties to Ithaca College per se, we've also got her teaching some classes on the Friday before the show.
That's great. Oh, that's wonderful.
She's going to be exhausted when she gets home, but yeah.
That's all right. Work her. She can handle it. That's all right.
Yeah, I think she works hard, that woman.
Well, I have a serious kinship with Shell, where I always say, God, if we were together at Ithaca College or at my college, Illinois State, we would have been friends because I came up through the radio program as well.
Right.
So yeah, she no, we have a lot in common, and then comics are just on top of all that. But
one of her recent projects, Heavy Rotation, is really all about the radio days in the 80s for Ithaca College. And they still have a fantastic, we have a fantastic radio station, kind of two radio stations here. And Ithaca is a great music town too. So
that's great. No, and again, in those pre-internet years, college radio really had, and it still does have an interesting place in the music business. But it's I can understand the appeal, and it's funny how we both gravitated towards comics after our years in radio and stuff. So and Philip is a great, wonderful artist. So many great books, so many great ideas, inventive artist. I'm a massive fan of his as well. They're great.
Absolutely. Like, we'll shine the spotlight on Shelley, and I don't want this fantastic artist to get lost in the sauce either, right? Like, we really got to celebrate him and make sure fans can meet him and learn from him and connect with him. So that'll be good. But we've got a lot of other guests too.
Here's one of them, I believe, Dean Haspiel. I assume he's coming in for Ithacon. Is that right?
We do. We're dragging up Dean Haspiel for his first Ithacon, and we couldn't be more excited about that. Not only is Dean a great guy, fun guy, great artist, but also one of the things that's really cool about him is he's such an entrepreneur. He really has shifted and taken the bull by the horns, and all the stuff he's doing lately, fits in with the things we want to teach at the college. Although, just to be clear too, this Ithacon is not a college event. Really, it's an event unto itself. So so we're excited to bring Dean back up bring him up for the first time to Ithaca, New York. And I think the fans are just going to love him. So that'll be really great.
That's excellent. And that's the thing, honestly, and I would imagine it will be part of some of the panels, is the fact that you really do need to be more entrepreneurial as a comic creator these days. And we've seen, you and I were briefly maybe talking about it before we started. And I'm working on a project. I don't want to go too far because I really want I really want to get it up and running before I talk in detail about it. But we were talking about Kickstarter and GoFundMe and things like that. And truly, Dean is a great example of a guy a comic creator that because you want to continue, you have to sometimes create your own books and sell your own books. And it's interesting, the platforms that are out there. And Shelley's another good example of that too. That's how, and Philip, I mean, that's it. Beyond working for a publisher, there are avenues for you to pursue that, you can create your own books and have your own editorial voice and do comics that maybe the big publishers aren't interested in doing, but you still find an audience and you can sell your books.
Absolutely. I was just at South by Southwest, and I was at one panel where a woman in recording was speaking about how she said, I'll never really be a superstar, but I'm doing my own music and I'm selling directly to my fans. And she has like no agent, no label. And then the moderator said, well, would you feel comfortable telling us how much you made last year? And she said she made $2 million, right? Like she said, I'm not going to be a household name, but she doesn't have to be. She's got her fans, and God bless them.
Honestly, it's the same attitude I take with Word Balloon, and I equate it with being a band that you would see in a bar rather than a big stadium. Sure. And it's like, yeah, I mean, essentially that's what Word Balloon is. This podcast, I kind of have my small but significant audience that, and I've got it. Everybody listen, it's the middle of the day, and I'm so thrilled that everybody's watching right now. And we do have a nice sized audience enjoying the show, which is just terrific. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, I kind of have that kinship with music people. So I get that. I want to come back to not only South by Southwest, but also Comic Pop in terms of, what you're doing and everything. Thank you. See, Dean saying stuff about us here, which is very nice.
Yeah, Dino, it's so funny. Yeah.
But
we
more
have some other guests too, including a guy who was like a mentor to Dean. We've got Walter Simonson returning to Ithacon, and also Louise Simonson. Thrilled to have them here. They've been big supporters over the years. And way back when I was a little boy, like I was just recognizing styles, and Rampaging Hulk had just come out, the black and white Hulk magazine. Walter was illustrating it, kind of heavy inks with Alfredo Alcala, although I liked his inks on Walter. And he was very kind. He was like that first pro who was very kind to, little Ed Catto, and in many ways propelled me into so many things that I do. So it's such a great honor to host him and Louise back here at Ithacon. And that'll be really great.
They're really like the deans of like the greatest comic book couple that are, still out there. So great to the fans, so great as mentors to aspiring creators. And Dean and certainly Bendis and others have just, gushed about how great they both are. And Walter as well, as, from an artist standpoint, and Louise definitely from a writing and editing standpoint. No, they're amazing people, and I adore them. I'm always happy to see them. Sam points out, it's right, that Seinfeld episode where Jerry plays Ithaca and freaks out about the pilot in the audience. The pilot in the audience?
Oh yeah, I don't know that episode or that.
I know there's that one. Yeah, I don't know. I do remember him there, that being one of the episodes, and I might be conflating it with another one where his assistant is just like overly helping him, and and at one point he's just like, I'm freaking out. I thought that was the Ithaca episode, but I'm excited. You're going to have J.G. Hertzler at the show, one of my favorite Star Trek actors.
Oh, he's a character. He's a great fella. And of course, played Klingon, and then he also was the bad guy in one of the Zorro shows, and he's got this other whole side, and he's a very super friendly, super funny person. He's a great guest.
I met him at San Diego one year on Wednesday on preview day, and it was before preview night, and we were at this bodega that I always go to because they make good fresh sandwiches and are really reasonable. And I'm in line. You can't miss the guy, even not in his Klingon makeup. He's such a tall, imposing figure. And I've seen, he had a great cameo in Everybody Loves Raymond, where he was an African explorer. and he was giving a lecture, and Raymond's bored to death at the lecture, and it's a very funny scene.
Oh, that's so funny. I got to make a
but I'm
note
like,
of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, J.G. Hertzler? He's like, yeah. And it was great. And I'm like, oh, man. I go, seriously, you were so great on Star Trek. I'm such a fan. And I read a couple other credits and stuff. And it was wonderful. His assistant was from Chicago, and she knew my sports radio background. So later that day, I'm in the convention center before they open the doors. And he sees me and he waves me over and he's like, hey, I understand you're a sports radio guy. And I said, yeah. He goes, from Chicago. I said, yeah. And he goes, did you know Harry Carey? I said, very well. And I started telling him a couple of Harry Carey stories, and he loved it. So I got to bug you. I would love to have him on the show and maybe to promote Ithacon.
Sure. Yeah. Let's work on that. We'll make another note. Fantastic.
There you go. Oh, this is funny. Alfredo, as a fan of the Jeffersons and also the character Steele, I grew up assuming Wheezy Simonson was black. No.
Oh, how funny. Yeah. No, Louise Simonson is such a gracious and inspiring person in person. And, I love to have her here because I'm a fanboy, love to work. This year, we're doing a really cool thing with her that we've got a lot of editors this year, believe it or not. And she started as an editor on the Warren line. One of my colleagues here at Ithaca College is a absolute fanatic about the old Warren titles. So we're gonna talk Warren for an hour and what that was all about. And I think that'll be a little different than a lot of other shows and a great way to leverage Wheezy. We also have a Superman panel, but that'll be a great one.
Well, and again, that's the thing. I mean, listen, a lot of comic book people know Walter because of his art and the various runs he's had on things. But you're absolutely right. Luis, amazing Superman writer, incredible editor. And going back to the Warren years rather, of the 70s and if not the 60s. And just, again, it is such a different animal, those creepy and eerie Warren publications to standard Marvel and DC comics, no matter what the decade. And Weezy was right there and was an important editor. I remember seeing her on a panel with Len Wein and other Silver Age guys. And they're all like, well, first of all, Louise is lovely. And she is, and I don't mean that in any, misogynistic way, but she was this really beautiful girl next door. I always say she was like, and I've told this, she was the Marsha Brady of comics. Like we all had, and even Len said that. He's like, oh, we all wanted to work for Wheezy. We all had crushes on Wheezy.
Oh,
and
sure.
She's just this really great person. And obviously has always been and still is a very beautiful woman. But she's smart. And she would be like, hey, Warren wasn't the most giving as far as page rates for writers or artists and stuff. But they would hook an artist, and either she or Len said it was like, hey, do you want to do a story for Warren? And they're like, I don't know, man. Well, John Severin is drawing it. Well, wait a minute, Weezy. Yes, I absolutely want to. She just knew how to play the game and everything, man.
Oh,
I just love that about her. She's brilliant, really brilliant. Yeah. And I really appreciate that the Simonsons tolerate my Kathy Bates level of.
Oh yeah. I just found this. This was in an old issue of Shanna, Kazar, really. At this stage, Kazar had died and Shanna took over. And
wow!
Here on the inside front cover is some Fumetti with Wheezy there, talking with all the guys. Isn't this beautiful?
That's great.
Yeah, then Zabu walks in. Yeah, crazy.
That's terrific. I love Fumetti, man. Fumetti is great, and I'm sure it's a pain in the ass to produce, but I do love, that's National Lampoon always did great Fumetti back in the day. I love that stuff. I was explaining Chris Daniels, the wrestler, he made a comic with Art and Franco, and the comic starts with Fumetti.
Oh,
and
cool.
It's colored shots of him and his old partner back then in real life. And then they go into the comic book world, and then Artie draws the rest of the story and everything. I was explaining what Fumetti was to Chris because he had never heard the phrase. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Italian, and Fumetti means like little puffs of smoke, like the word balloons. That's how the phrase happened. And he's like, okay, and he got it after a while. But yeah, it was funny.
Is your podcast Fumetti when you do it in Italy?
I should do that.
On the app.
No, you know why? I don't want to do it because my hair's never in place.
Oh.
So I guarantee I'm getting a haircut after this. I'm definitely like calling and going, all right, we got it, because it's flopping around right now.
Oh, it looks wonderful. Looks wonderful. Yeah. And so at Ithacon, we've got some amazing publishers coming, John. For a small show, we really punch up. So the gang from Ahoy Comics is going to be here, and they're great. And I do a lot of other stuff with them too, but just love those guys and everything they're doing. They've just celebrated 5 years, and they announced Toxic Avenger book and this Babs book by Warren Ellis, and we're so excited. It'll be so much fun.
Yeah, Ahoy is really a great publisher. I'm talking to Mark Russell later this week, and certainly has a lot of Ahoy output. And no, it's tough to do good comedy comic books, and I think Ahoy succeeds in a lot of ways. And also they're branching out in other ways. I know Tom Pyre is also coming from Ahoy, and Art Seeley. That's great. No, that's excellent.
Yeah. Tom Hart. It'll be great. Frank Camuso, who's he's the creative director. He's a great creative in his own right too. He'll be coming under the auspices of Ahoy, and also with his YA stuff. And yeah, we even use we use this Garth Ennis image for one of our posters. So,
oh wow,
this is that new Garth Ennis
Babs
property coming out, and yeah, it's been so much fun.
That's cool. That's amazing. Yeah, and it's pretty. I'm interested to hear what Garth has got planned for Ahoy, because Garth isn't the kind of writer that I would expect Ahoy to work with. So that's pretty neat. I'm sure there's a good story behind that. That's wonderful.
Oh yeah. I think that one is kind of like The Boys meets Red Sonja in many ways, and and I'm sure it'll be absolutely bonkers and fun.
Mike Gold coming back, which is great. I'm a big Mike Gold fan, obviously. And
we've got Mike. Mike's great. Bob Harrison from Pop Culture Squad will also be on hand. We're going to work Mike hard with all the editing stuff. Wave Blue World, another publisher coming. Tyler Chin Tanner and Pete Carlson will be representing them, and they're doing a variant cover for Mezzo #1, the 3rd volume. So it's Ithacon's first variant cover. That'll be kind of cool. And we just signed on board Dynamite. Joe Rybant from Dynamite will be coming up, talk about gargoyles and Space Ghost and all the cool things going on there. So
that's great. That's excellent. Yeah, I've been bugging. Damn it. And now I'm blanking.
I know Nick always.
Barucci. Yeah, I've been bugging Barucci about coming on, man.
I think he's always listening to your show.
Yes, he is always watching. It's like, hey, man, come on the show. So hopefully that'll happen. I'd like to see him
come on.
We'll make it happen. But Joe's great. I've done panels and interviews with Joe before. He's terrific.
Yeah, he's a fantastic guy.
And, no, that's excellent, man. That's great. Again, I think you got a great lineup. And it's both educational, literally, but also very entertaining. And I'm always happy to help promote Ithacon. So
we appreciate it.
And people are going to be seeing commercials for Ithacon and listening to Ithacon commercials for the next couple of weeks as we get closer. What are the dates for the show again?
Oh, yeah, sure. So we're April 27th and 28th. And, tickets on sale now. We do a cool thing. So the first chunk of tickets that get purchased get a goodie bag. Typically, our goodie bags are worth over $40. So that's always the incentive for folks to do it. Oh, we have our first mascot too. This is kind of a crazy one. So Don Simpson, we asked for some. We asked for him to supply some art that we could make a poster. Instead, this guy is so generous and creative. He creates like a poster, of original artwork, and he created a mascot, Ithacon Man, that you can see there. fighting Megaton Man. So, very gracious of Don. He's just such a fun guest. So that was
I've enjoyed his stuff for years. Absolutely, man. No, another really funny guy in comics. Definitely, very cool. So yeah, you did just do South by Southwest.
I did.
And I'm so glad you were down there. And man, you were there for a lot of the big announcements. They announced all the new Marvel writers for X-Men, and
that was a cool thing. So that was actually the last day I was there, but I wanted to do it. There wasn't a lot of comic stuff last year. Vault was there, but they had that, and my flight was later. And I'm like, oh, I should really get to the airport. I'm like, oh, I'll just go to the panel and enjoy it. And I'm so glad I did. It was great. And, Gail Simone was there, and, always very gracious. And Jed McKay was the other writer, and Tom Brevoort. And it was cool. They're doing so they talked about the X-Men. You might have seen some of the social media. One of the images of Cyclops, he looked kind of young, and they're thinking, is there something, going on? But, as Gail and Jed talked about the premise, it like made me excited for the X-Men for the first time in a while. Like, it sounds really cool. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And then they talked about this relationship that they have with a company called Vivi, and it's kind of a mix between like Comixology and NFTs. And I'm not really sure what to make of it. I've got to do a little more research, but that was kind of interesting to see that announcement as well.
Honestly, NFTs are really in a tricky place right now,
aren't they?
I think, you get it, Ed, absolutely. And I don't mind talking about it for a second, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of the initial beginnings with NFTs, they entered in some partnerships and ideas that I don't think the audience is really excited about. So I can appreciate. And also they got kind of tied with cryptocurrency, which is a different thing. And I think they were tied together in some cases, but it's like, it's a shame, because I see the advantages of NFTs and that they are interesting. But also, I remember they had a Star Trek convention here in Chicago 2 years ago, and it was honestly very funny to see two of the stars saying, hey, guess what? Star Trek's getting in the NFT business. And the audience booed hard. And the shocked look on the celebrities' faces. And it's like, well, there's probably something good there. And as you say, maybe there's something, as they get into whatever their NFT venture is, might make more sense and be more reasonable to fans. But I really do think the NFT business, it's still kind of figuring itself out, and I think is fraught with as many pitfalls as there are advantages.
Yeah, I think this company is trying to allow people to read comics digitally and then collect digital copies. So they didn't use the word NFT, but it's kind of what it was. And we'll see. I love the paper, right? Just as a person, but yeah.
I love digital comics. I'm looking at my iPad right now as we say this. And,
pay attention to me, man. Jeez, no reading comics during the show.
It's not on. I'm not looking at a comic book. But no, I do. I like how good a comic page looks digitally. But I also respect, and I love paper, and I've grown up obviously with paper comics, and that is a little different from NFTs. So and as you say, maybe I wasn't paying attention when you say it's kind of a cross between Comixology, and especially with Comixology kind of going away. Amazon absorbing more of it, and if maybe in name only Comixology really exists anymore, there are other digital platforms. Just from a digital comic standpoint, I love digital comics. I like the convenience of it. And especially when you don't have a store nearby, it's a great way to still be able to purchase and be involved with comics.
Yeah. One of the most amazing panels I went to was, I should remember the guy's name. The actor who played Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo theatrical movies with Freddie Prinze.
Matthew Lillard?
Yes, Matthew Lillard. And he has a startup that he's talked about. And that guy was fantastic. It was like his business was really cool. And he seemed so smart and focused. And that was the one panel that really seemed like something at a comic convention where some fans came just because of his, because they loved him as Shaggy or some of these more recent roles that he's done. But
yeah, the Scream. He's in the Scream movies as well.
Scream movies and, I forget. Yeah, I forget the other stuff. More recent, he even had a recent Five Nights or something. But
I don't remember that. I know he's in the baseball movie Trouble with the Curb, and he's kind of Clint Eastwood's main enemy in the baseball organization that he works for and everything. Yeah, he's good, and he's in I forget what it was it The Inheritors, the movie with George Clooney, where his family owns a lot of Hawaiian property. And they're thinking about selling, and his wife is.
Oh yeah, there's a death in the family.
Yeah.
That was
Lillard's in that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, he was a fantastic talk. In fact, I should write about it. He really gave the master class in how to talk about a startup and bring a lot of passion to it. And
are you gonna write an article about South by Southwest and Comic Pop?
I did. I've done a couple of them on Pop Culture Squad. I talked
Pop
about
Culture Squad. I'm sorry, buddy. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I did one about the X-Men panel, and then I did another one about this amazing poster show they do called Flat Stock, which is this whole genre. I'm not really familiar with it, but it's people who are doing posters many times for rock concerts, but not really for the concert, just incorporating the things that are going on. And the level of creativity, like if you're someone who likes comics for the artwork, this Flat Stock is for you. And I put a bunch of them up there. Just amazing stuff.
I want to say Francesco Francavilla does a lot of stuff for them and creates posters. If not for Flat Stock, certainly other like Mondo, the great company that does a lot of really fun posters, not only of current stuff, but even retro. There's a Man with No Name Clint Eastwood poster. And
you do Man with No Name or Creature from the Black Lagoon or something. Yeah, that Francesco stuff seems fitting. Yeah, and Flat Stock was really like a convention within a convention almost. So that was cool.
That's really neat, man. No, I envy you. I'd love to go to South by Southwest some year because I appreciate all the different genres that they are involved with. It is music, it is movies, it is comics, it is TV. I remember couple of years ago, you say Vault was there last year. I remember when they had DC was there, and they had a big Superman presence. And that's the first time Jurgens and Bendis actually met each other, and we're talking, talk shop and how they were treating Superman in different ways. And speaking of Superman, back to Ithacon, the great Roger Stern coming to your show.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Roger will be there. He's fantastic, and he touched so many important things. It's also the 40th anniversary of the kid who collected Spider-Man. We're shining the spotlight on that.
Sure.
Glenn Whitmore, who was a DC colorist for years and years and worked on all those Superman things, is coming up. And we have a coloring contest with Glenn, and he's just a fantastic guy. Great artist in his own right, beyond the coloring, but a fantastic colorist too. So that's just a lot of fun for us all.
That's excellent. You were telling me off the air too, and I conflated Pop Culture Squad with Comic Pop, the trade show.
Oh yeah. So that's actually Comics Pro. I mean, there's so
Comic
many.
Pro,
I can't keep it straight either. I can't keep my children names straight. But.
So what happened to Comics Pro this year?
Yeah, so Comics Pro is really a show for retailers. Comics Pro, the organization, is for comic retailers to kind of bond together, share, learn from one another, develop best practices, understand what's going on, because, so many comics retailers are just independent entrepreneurs maybe they've got one or two shops, and it's no one's in it because they want to get rich. They're all working like dogs because they're passionate about reading or giving something back to the community or comics or whatever. And they're all, I say they're all great people, which probably isn't true, but everyone I meet seems to be just a fantastic person. So I love the Comics Pro organization. They have their annual meeting in Pittsburgh this year. I used to go with my pal Steve Rotterdam when we were doing Bonfire for years and years, but I haven't been in a long time. And it was great. And part of it is for retailers to learn how to be better retailers or exchange ideas. But then a lot of the publishers will come and talk about the upcoming plans. So, big publishers, medium publishers, small publishers. I went on behalf of Ahoy Comics to help Ahoy talk about all the things that they're doing with retailers. And, all in all, you're just kind of like immersed in that, the more businessy side of the industry. In the past, they never allowed the comic press to come. But this year there were people like Heidi McDonald from Comics B and Milton from ICV2 were there, and Bridget Alverson, who I never met. I've read her stuff.
She's great.
So long, and it was great to meet her in person. That was my fanboy moment, chatting up Bridget Alverson. So
no, I love Bridget and Heidi too. And I've only met Milton briefly, but I used to attend as well, and I would kind of sneak in along with a store. Oh, and nice. The publishers thankfully knew who Word Balloon was and everything. And I really wanted to just be a fly on the wall and observe the conversations between retailers and publishers. And it was a real education. And I didn't want to, I'm not here to interfere. I don't want to inject my editorial point of view or anything. I'm just here to learn. And it really was educational. I think it's necessary. And I also think everything you just said in terms of a lot of these vendors really are independent operators that don't know how others do it, and they learn a lot. And also, again, Ed and I were talking before we went on the air and how much things have changed in the last 25 years in comics. And it's hard to keep up and also hard to stay vital given all the different, as we said, you can buy comics digitally. So sometimes I think it's tougher for stores. That whole period during COVID, I was so impressed with the comic vendors because they really got inventive. They curbside service and everything they could do to keep their doors open and keep the wheels going.
Oh yeah, live auctions. How about the people would have physical stores and they do live auctions at night?
Absolutely. Mark Hammond for Comics was there every week, hand selling books online and stuff. And no, I'm like, this is great. This is what you need to do.
That was fantastic. And I got to meet so many cool people. Folks who run Bat City down in Brereton, Florida. Fantastic store. Their passion was overwhelming. The husband, Matt Live, is a big Dick Tracy fan. I think you're Dick Tracy too. Is that right?
Oh, massively. I'm talking to Alex Segura Thursday night about the new Mad Cave Dick Tracy putting out.
Yeah. Mad Cave had great presence. And then we did a roundabout for the stores in the greater Pittsburgh area. And, folks like Pittsburgh Comics, and, fantastic. And then, on Sunday, New Dimensions opened up their warehouse, which is like this giant clearinghouse. And I was surrounded by 500,000 comics. And I never really knew what 500,000 comics look like, but it was crazy. I mean, for a comic book fan like you or everyone listening, it was like a dream, It was like, holy smokes, just so many comics. And it was great.
That's like, who is it in Denver that has the Mile High Comics company?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was probably a lot like that Mile High, Chuck Rosansky.
Chuck, that's right. Yeah.
that whole setup. Yeah, this is a guy, Todd McDermott, who a great fella who did a lot of work. In fact, he was very gracious hosting some parties. At this Comics Pro, people are up in the morning hitting it hard, but they're socializing and sharing stories late at night. There was no rest for the wicked.
No, that's great, man. I've gone when it's been local, when the Comics Pro weekend is local and everything. And again, it's a good education of really how the other side of the business works and everything.
Yeah.
So I absolutely appreciate it. It's a weird time, Ed. I worry about the price of the cover price of comics, and I think it's challenging for the publishers. So they want to pay artists a fair rate and make a fair profit. But by the same token, as a consumer, it's like, I don't know, $5 for 20 pages. That's kind of steep.
And as consumers, there's so many choices of things to do with your entertainment dollar or time. It's like the choices are outlandishly, there's so many good things to do, but also there's too many good things to do. So, how do you break through the clutter? And if you're, even in the comic world, if you're a publisher that's not DC, Marvel, or Image, how do you show this great product to folks? And that was a lot of the conversations.
Well, and to their credit, I do think a lot of those Mad Caves and Ahoy are meeting the challenge with alternative product rather than just, hey, here's more superhero stuff. And there is, and that's okay. But it's like, really, like I remember 3 years ago during COVID, and we would put on these online shows. And it's like, oh, Mad Cave wants to do a panel. And I'm like, I've never heard of Mad Cave. I hadn't heard of them. Yeah. And my God, what they've done in the last 3 years, I think has really shown they kind of got in business with Paper Cuts, Jim Salicru's company. And now you really got a full lineup of really interesting stuff. I'm very excited for not only Dick Tracy, but they're also doing Flash Gordon.
Yeah. Yep. They were talking about that too. Yeah. Looks beautiful.
Yeah, man. And and that's the thing. And like I said, Ahoy is still incredibly inventive. And it's guys that are experienced guys. Hart Seeley really assembled this great group of people that had comic book experience, like Tom Pyre and the like, that really could come in and Stuart Moore, for example, as far as the old, and could come in and really bring traditional comic book ideas, but with different subjects as far as what the books are about. And I think it's great.
And you can see the Ahoy people, everyone involved, Sarah, Kat, Kit, they all like love the industry, and then they also are working hard to be additive, to give something that's a really high quality product and to zig while everybody else zags. And it's the efforts of folks like Ahoy are always so maybe inspiring's too big a word, but it is. It's like, yeah, good for you guys. That is great. That is just great to see.
Absolutely, man. Hey, what I saw, and I finally watched the full thing, and it's maybe a couple of years old, but it came out during the COVID years. I don't know if you saw it, but it was about Del Close, the guy.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the beginning of the documentary was about the Wasteland comic that he and Mike made at DC.
Absolutely, yeah. We had a Wasteland panel here the last go around with Mike Gold, and also Don Simpson worked on that book as well. And
oh wow,
yeah, he was like one of the rotating artists with a feature in just about every issue. But Del Close was such a larger than life character, and
and so big in comedy. But it is, I knew because I was reading it back then, the comic book. But that's the thing. I really think that's a wrinkle of Del's career that I don't think a lot of people knew about.
Yeah.
And it's such a great. Wasteland was so amazing.
Oh.
And I know I've asked Mike, who was the editor, Mike Gold, like, how come DC has never collected it? And he said maybe because some of the artists have passed away, and giving proper credit. And where the money would go as far as estates and even clearance to republish a lot of that
Right.
stuff because it was beyond Vertigo before Vertigo. I mean, it was
really was. It's almost like a pre-Vertigo book. Yeah, so edgy and out there and engaging. Yeah, great
Yeah.
book.
Have you
And
seen any other?
first sketch cover ever.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was kind of a mistake too, but yeah, that's the first sketch cover.
I didn't realize that. That's amazing. Have you seen any other comic documentaries or any comic related?
Let's see. I like that Dave Stevens one, but that came out a couple of years ago. That one I thought was just aces. I love that one. Yeah.
Oh, one I found on Tubi is the guy who does Big Bang comics. Bill.
Yeah.
I forget Bill's last
Like
name.
Night Watchman, all those characters.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And oh my God, his whole history, and it's on Tubi. So again, we're used to commercials, but if you're younger and you can stand, every 10 minutes seeing a commercial break, it's a really good documentary that's on Tubi. So that impressed me. I also noticed that I think somebody posted, I don't know if they did it legally or not, but I noticed the Doomed, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie documentary about the making of that movie. I saw was recently on YouTube.
Oh yeah. Yeah, what a crazy story that much. I haven't seen that documentary, but just crazy story behind that.
Oh, absolutely, man. No, you know what? I always appreciate these misfires of the 80s and 90s of movies and TV. And I was telling a friend, and now, God damn it, I can't remember the name of the actor, but we were talking before we did this podcast, and I was telling him about how, again, during COVID, I got the whole Justice League cast of the cartoon to come on.
Yes. Yeah.
And do a table read.
I remember that.
And we even got the guy, and shame, and please, people in the chat, give me the name because I feel terrible talking about this guy, not crediting his name. But the man who played the Martian Manhunter, and he was also on Alias with Jennifer Garner, and he was another spy working with
Phil Lamar. Is that?
No, it's not Phil. And Phil was on that, by the way, as Green Lantern, of course. But God, what?
What's that?
Well, someone's going to say it. There we go. Got Mike. Way to go, Mike. Carl Lumley, everybody. That's who I'm talking about. Yes. And I had to ask him, I'm like, Carl, I got to know about remember the Mantis from Fox?
Yeah.
Was a superhero show for a minute, like half a season.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to know everything about the Mantis. And he left. And he said, and he's right. He goes, we had a great pilot. And unfortunately, the writing just did not hold up when the episode started to happen. And it's like, again, you could find the Mantis on YouTube, everybody. And I suggest you do it because there were all those like weird attempts like the Mantis.
Manimal.
Manimal, certainly in the 80s. The Sentinel from the late 90s was kind of a quasi-superhero sort of thing. And, of course, you had John Wesley Shipp on The Flash.
Yeah.
And that's what I told him. I said, man, it was you and John Wesley Shipp. I go carrying the, superhero torch. At a time when it was really tough to get any stuff like that. Oh, yeah, Night Mask. Absolutely. Very good, Mike. Good. Or Nightman. Nightman, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Malibu. Yeah, right. Jeez. Man, that was amazing.
Yeah, another syndicated one. Oh, and L-Track says that was a fantastic and a little sad documentary, Doom. Yeah, it's interesting. It really is interesting. And it's a fun movie to see, that Fantastic Four Roger Corman movie. For all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, painful.
And she loved Alias, though, the Melissa George stuff through the Melissa George stuff. Yeah, season 3. You're right. That's true. L-Trax, absolutely, classic stuff.
Oh God.
Yeah. So have you seen X-Men '97 yet? The new Disney cartoon.
I saw a hot minute of it. Man, the music just I wasn't of that age, but that music just took me right back.
I barely watched it either, Ed. We're close enough in age and everything, yeah. And I felt the same way, but I did see enough of it that I have to say the new version, it really does capture the spirit of the original show, but it's not too 90s because a lot of those 90s cartoons do not hold up.
Yeah,
thankfully, I think animation has gotten smarter and better written as the years have progressed. But I have to say, I think the writing is there, and I think it looks enough like the old '97 cartoon and everything.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun. And also,
yeah.
I've been watching Invincible on Amazon,
Oh yeah, sure.
and that's terrific. That is just terrific, and it's such a relief, much like The Boys, that Amazon is allowing the show to be the way that it is, and it's a great representation of what Kirkman and Otley and those guys did with the comic book. It's great.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're just talking or if I'm still pitching, but
Pitch.
One of the things that we want to do at Ithacon in relation to Dynamite coming and celebrating their Space Ghost show is, Space Ghost was a 1960s cartoon back in the days when cartoons were only on Saturday morning.
Absolutely.
So we're going to show a couple episodes of Space Ghost, and we're going to serve everyone milk and cereal.
Hey, that's great.
On Sunday morning. It's going to be Saturday is
That's
Sunday.
all right.
Yeah, that'll be, if you get it, you get it. And if you're 21 years old, you're like, I have no idea why you're doing this.
I think that's terrific. Oh,
Yeah.
dude. Well, I'm 59. I'll say it.
Yeah,
And
I'm just 60. Yeah.
all right, there you go. Yeah, we're right there, man. We're right there. Yeah. So literally Saturday morning cartoons were invented the year I was born, 64.
Oh gosh.
Because they invented Superman and everything.
Yeah, I can't believe they're not a thing anymore. I mean, I guess when we were kids, we thought it would go on forever.
Well, and also, good Lord, it was such important television for children. I know you remember growing up too. The Friday before the new lineups, they would have a primetime special. And it would be like, hey, it's Michael Jackson and the lineup for NBC cartoons for this year. And it was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Very exciting stuff.
I was just explaining / boring my wife to tears with Hanna-Barbera. Oh, thank you, Jay Eddie Smith.
Yeah, Jay says milk and cereal is a great idea. Absolutely, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hanna-Barbera had a couple of musical directors. I think the top guy was Hoyt Curtin.
That's right.
And he did all the sound, not only the theme songs, but all the under music they would use. That was like the soundtrack to my childhood.
Oh, absolutely.
The scary adventure, the somber, the happy, all that stuff. I just embrace so much.
Did you ever buy that Rhino Records collection called Picnic Basket?
I did not. Is that all Hoyt Curtin?
It was a CD box set, and I know that a lot of the music you can find on YouTube, but it's all the theme songs and incidental music of the funny cartoons and the adventure cartoons.
I think I have heard that on YouTube. Yeah, I think I've heard all the adventure stuff with all the under music for, I think they used it in Johnny Quest originally, and then they repurposed it on every show.
Right, exactly. Absolutely, man. No, and I don't do you currently have Boomerang? I don't have Boomerang right now.
No, we don't.
It bums me out that Max, which owns Hanna-Barbera, doesn't have a separate channel for Boomerang, because beyond Space Ghost, Herculoids and Galaxy Trio and all those fantastic cartoons, and I don't know if Hanna-Barbera made the original before the Super Friends, because I know they made the Super Friends stuff, but in the 60s, that Aquaman
Filmation. That was all the Filmation stuff. That was fantastic too. Oh gosh.
Oh my God. And and it's funny because I remember him on Super Friends narrating, but Ted Baxter. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, come on. You love that stuff. Using his super breath, Superman cooled down the fire.
Absolutely. He's the best. Yeah, I feel like those Filmation shows had 3 people, doing all the voices. One woman would do all the female voice. It's like the bad guy and the good guy. All the old radio people, all the Vic Pear and all your old favorites from radio.
And it's not only Filmation but Hanna-Barbera too. I had the pleasure of interviewing Tim Matheson, the original Johnny Quest.
Sure.
And he was 14 when he was doing Johnny Quest. And he's like, I'm next to Don Messick and Mel Blanc and June Foray and all these wonderful radio and animation actors. And he goes, they're all pros and vets at this point in the 60s. And I'm this kid. And he goes, oh, it was like the greatest thing in the world. It was so wonderful because obviously Tim's had such an amazing television and film career as well. And I'm like, all right, listen. I'm like, first 15 minutes, I'm like, I got to ask you about Johnny Quest. And he's great. And I know he occasionally does San Diego and other comic conventions. And it's so great that he's proud. And I had forgotten that he was also the voice of young Samson.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, no, I love. No, there really was. There's, and again, on YouTube, you can find compilations of Saturday morning cartoon lineups from various years and stuff. And yeah, so again, if you're an older fan like me and Ed, we can find enjoyment and go back and watching. And sometimes they even include the commercials.
Yeah,
so you had all the cereal commercials and Hot Wheels and the Aurora models and Skittle Pool and Skittle Bowl and all that crap.
Yeah, Don Adams.
Don Adams.
Yeah, Skittle.
Right, the Skittle Pool commercial. Absolutely.
Oh my God. Well, young Samson was a weird one because most of those Hanna-Barbera superheroes were on CBS, and young Samson was on ABC for some strange reason. I guess they just had so much output they were doing back then.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I know a lot of the licensing, a lot of shows did leapfrog.
Yeah.
I know Johnny Quest was on all 3 networks.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we're too young to remember when it was on primetime. Although I do remember a couple times in the summers when I was under 10 that it would show up for a summer or whatever. But Johnny Quest is amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So much fun. So much fun.
How about Space Angel? I'm a big Space Angel fan.
Oh yeah. I didn't do Space Angel as a kid. I appreciate it all now, but yeah.
Alex Toth.
Yeah.
And that weird Clutch Cargo animation, right, where they'd have a live filmed mouth surrounded by an animated face and everything. Yeah.
Oh man. I just learned about the Super 7. I don't know if you remember that. That was like an obscure show, but it was opposite like, Space Ghost or something. So I never watched it as a kid. And that was, the height of that superhero mania in the 60s, just so weird to today's eyes. Bananas.
I was talking to David Pepos, who's writing Space Ghost for Dynamite and everything. He's excited, and I'll tell you again, he's younger than us, but I give him credit. He did his research, and Zan and Jana, or
Jan and Jace. Yeah,
Jan and Jace. Thank you, because I get them confused with the Wonder Twins, of course, from later years. And they're going to be in there, and also what was the monkey's name? Blip. Yeah. See, I wanted to say Gleek, but again, that's the Wonder Twin. There you go.
No, predated the Wonder Twins.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that David Pepos is a good guy. He's a smart person, and I'll bet he'll do a great job with it.
Yeah, I'm excited for him.
Yeah,
I honestly no, he's doing interesting stuff. Yeah.
I love his. Did you read Last Scout that he did at Aftershock? I love that.
Yes, book. I did. Yes, I did. No, that was great. No, David's a guy. He's got a lot of good creator-owned ideas alongside the license books that he ends up doing.
Yeah.
So no, I'm with you, man. Here, Mike, what do you got here? Filmation Space Sentinels, who became part of the Super 7, was a favorite of mine.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Yeah, and that was. Gee, do I have the wrong name for that other thing? Yeah, that Filmation Super 7 is different than the one that I was thinking about. But yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think I knew the one you were talking about, but I also know the one Mike's talking about.
Yeah.
No, Annie Mangels wrote a great history of Filmation a couple of years ago, and it was when Lou was still alive. Lou Scheimer, one of the creative men behind Filmation.
Yeah.
That whole story, both about the studio itself and how they made these things. There's again, forgive me, everybody, I keep pointing to YouTube, but there's a great behind-the-scenes documentary about the Filmation Flash Gordon 80s cartoon. And it started as a primetime movie. They were, and Scheimer's on there, and he had every intention of making a live action Flash Gordon movie, but the budget was going to be too expensive. And he's like, all right, how about if we do it as an animated movie? And there was some NBC executive is like, oh, that's great. No, we'll still use it in primetime. And it was a primetime TV movie. And I remember when it was on. And
wow.
they use rotoscope and everything, kind of like the way Heavy Metal and other animated things have used it. But it really is a great pilot. And then even the series itself emulated the cliffhangers because they'd have a story of the week and they would always end with a tease of what was going to be in the next episode. And it kind of was a cliffhanger where, okay, you don't see the snarling lion men are in the weeds crouching and watching Flash, and they're going to be the next obstacle in the next episode and stuff.
Yeah, I love that series. I agree. I thought that was very well done, and I watched it a few years ago and thought it held up well. Yeah,
It's a shame, Ed, because honestly, and I was talking about this with another friend, where it feels like some of the owners of these intellectual properties, they hold on to them and they don't let them be exploited. Maybe people don't approach them to make movies and TV shows or comics or whatever. But I think of some of the original pulp heroes like Doc Savage and the Shadow, and Flash Gordon is of that era, even though it was a comic strip. And sometimes they hold on to the license so long, and you never see anything new. I remember James Patterson, the great novelist, had a Shadow novel within the last 5 years or 10 years or so.
Yeah,
and, it didn't do that well or whatever, and it's like, well, generationally, who remembers the Shadow? That's younger than us, frankly.
Yeah, that one. I hear what you're saying. The James Patterson, Doc Savage, and Shadow. Ooh,
Unfortunately, it wasn't a good novel.
Yeah, but
or I remember being on a panel at San Diego with a bunch of other podcasters, and they were making fun of the Lone Ranger movie with Johnny Depp and
sure,
the cannibal, Army Hammer. Unfortunately, we know him as the cannibal, Army Hammer. And it was funny because he's like, well, look at the Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger's, at that point was, over 70 years old. Who gives a shit about that? And my answer back was, yeah, meanwhile, they made 2 really successful Zorro movies. So, no, I disagree. I'm like, it comes down to writing and execution.
Yeah.
But also that whole sitting on the shelf too long that people don't know about these characters. I mean, the movie with Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp's portrayal of Tonto was so weird. Remember he had the bird on his head and everything.
I do. Yeah. But like, to prove your point, like, I just saw the first episode of a new Zorro series that was like produced in Europe. I thought it was pretty good, and
I watched it on Amazon. Yes,
that Sean Murphy interpretation of Zorro looks great. I think I've got it in my to read pile, the first issue or the second issue. And
no, it's good. No, it is good. Again, it's execution, but it also is like, don't get so precious that stuff sits on the shelf. And I don't know. I don't know if the rights holders are being precious with it and no, not interested. I don't know, but I mean, they're great ideas, and they leave the zeitgeist when they're not exploited, and people don't give a shit about them. They don't know what these are. John Carter, what a missed opportunity with that movie.
Oh, so sad. Loved that property. Like, the books are property, but yeah, just what a drag.
And it was a decent movie, but it was mismarketed. Kind of like, remember they kind of fucked up with the Rocketeer back in the day.
Yeah,
the Rocketeer should have been bigger than it was.
It really should have. Yeah, and I guess that's a property that they're looking to do some new things with. I keep hearing fits and starts.
Mike Jones is right. He's being sarcastic and says, yeah, who cares about Sherlock Holmes or Robin Hood? Just millions of people. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and again, the reason why that's possible is both are in the public domain.
Right.
So anybody can do. I mean, I certainly, Ed, I know you and I both were reading comics throughout the 80s and 90s and 2000s, where every now and then, hey, look, a new Sherlock Holmes comic book or a new Robin Hood comic book and stuff.
Yeah.
So, no,
right,
it's
right. Yeah, it's good to have people take their turn. It's good, like, when King Features has Alex Segura do a new Dick Tracy, or Zorro Productions has people come up with a new series. All that's just wonderful.
No, I'm with you, man. Well, Ed, I'll tell you, I'll wrap up because I know it's a school day, so I'm sure you've got classes to attend.
I do, but it's great. Thanks for making the time.
Absolutely, man. Ithacon 2024, the 47th Ithacon. And again, it's the end of April. Give the date, the 2 date, 27th.
Yeah, 27th, 28th. Tickets available now at ithacon.org. And we'll be throwing a great party and having a lot of fun. And hope to see all the word balloon types, including Dean Haspiel, there. We'll have fun.
I'm great lineup of guests: Walt and Louise Simonson, Mike Gold, and the Ahoy guys.
Oh, I feel like I'm missing like 3 other amazing people. Chris Condon, up and coming writers coming. Who else? We've got so many good people coming. It's going to be great.
That's excellent, man. Well, maybe we'll manage to get a couple of these people to come on Word Balloon and promote the show even more.
That sounds like a plan. Thank you for your kindness, John.
Oh, my pleasure, buddy. Here's some final comments. L-Track says, I was one of those who didn't know of John Carter before the film. I heard it was sci-fi, but more like Conan spaced away to another planet. Well, for me, the favorite knock on John Carter was, this looks like Attack of the Clones when the big gladiator arena scene. And it's like, no. George Lucas was inspired by John Carter. That came first by about 70 years. I mean, and again, there's a whole book about what went wrong with the promotion and production of John Carter. I don't remember the title of it, but it is out there. So I imagine if you Google search, you could find the title. And I did read it, and it is very, very interesting.
Yeah, so sad. Missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity, absolutely. Well, Ed, this wasn't a missed opportunity. I'm glad
this was a great opportunity. Thanks, John. That's
my
fantastic.
pleasure, buddy.
And good. We got to get you out to Ithacon one of these days too, John.
Oh, if you get, if I had more scratch for the plane ticket, or if you can fly me out, I wouldn't say no.
I'm gonna drive out to Chicago and kidnap you and bring you out.
Hey, are you coming to C2E2 or no? Probably too busy.
No.
I think it's the same weekend. I think.
Yeah.
Weekend. Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Well, I share your pain because I'm not going to be at Fan Expo Chicago this year because it's the same weekend as Terrificon.
Oh, there you go. Well, we're blessed with so many choices. That's good.
Absolutely, man. I'm with you. No, thanks, Ed. This is great. Hang on for a second. I want to talk to you off the air if you have a minute.
John.
All right, buddy. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Right. Hey, thanks, Word Balloon.
Absolutely. Tonight,
by the way, I'm a proud Word Balloon Patreon sponsor. Money where my mouth is. Such a great investment. Thanks for all you do, John.
Well, thank you for having your cape and mask and being part of the League of Word Balloon listeners. No, I genuinely appreciate that. And tonight, everybody, I'll be back on at 8 o'clock Eastern to talk to my boxing buddies from Ringside Seat. They have a brand new issue out. Great stuff, great stories, and also some interesting stuff as we get closer again next month to the Tyson Fury Alexander Usyk fight coming up for the heavyweight title. It's going to be a big one. So all that's coming up later tonight. So I hope you'll join me. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.